Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Finance in Flux webinar. I am going to give us a moment just as folks are continuing to join, and we will get started shortly. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Finance in Flux, Turning Cash Flow Visibility into Business Agility. I want to thank you for joining us here today. My name is Mandy Schnurl. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Netgain, and I'll be your host today. And whether you're an accountant, controller, CFO, or somewhere in between, this is a great conversation for you. So a couple of housekeeping notes as we are getting started. Oh, I'll get there eventually. Here we go. Couple of housekeeping notes. So we will be recording this session. So we'll be sending the recording to you after the event via your email address that you've used to register for. As we're discussing today, please feel free to drop your questions anytime. We will save them for the end and make sure to address as many as we possibly can. And we will be also launching a couple of quick polls. So just keep an eye out to join us. So what brings us here today as we are talking about finance in flux? So 2025 hasn't exactly been a calm year so far. We've had a lot of interest rate uncertainty, tariff shifts, market volatility, and that puts finance leaders in a position where we're being asked to do more with less and to do it faster. So in this crazy world that we're in right now, you've probably been asked to forecast with extreme accuracy, have a better daily cash flow visibility. You may be seeing increasing demand from leadership to turn your numbers into strategy, and you may be feeling a little bit burnt out from all of this going on. So I'd love to start by taking a pulse on how all of these changes are landing with you. So let me add that for us. Quick poll. Okay. So let me publish that so everybody can see it. And please go ahead and answer for us as you can. But how often are you updating your cash position? Are you doing it daily? Are you doing it weekly? Are you only updating it as you're closing the books at month end? Or maybe you don't know. Maybe it's somebody else's job. But I will give you a moment as those results are coming in. All right. Awesome. Great. Very, very interesting. Okay, so as we are moving on, let's see. I believe I can close this one out. All right, so next up, I would love for us to I would love for us to meet our two panelists that we have here today. So let me move over to their bios here just so you can get a sense of who you're talking to today. So first of all, I would love to introduce Adam Riches. He is our CEO and founder here at Netgain. Adam is a CPA turned tech founder, and he's passionate about helping finance teams move faster and make more strategic decisions. And then joining us from across the pond is Nicolas Boucher, the founder of AI Finance Club. Nicolas is a former head of finance who now teaches over 100,000 finance professionals how to use AI, automation, and modern tools to transform the way they work. Together, we're going to explore how finance teams can drive strategy even when the economy is in a volatile place. So let's get into it. So I am going to move this off of the stage here for us so you can see Adam and Nicolas a little bit better. So Adam, you mentioned as we were prepping for this webinar that COVID has forced everyone to learn how to pivot faster. How do you see finance leaders applying that agility today?
It's interesting. All the things we learned through COVID. I think it was a fascinating time to be in the business. And of the things that we learned, it kind of goes back, echoes to that age-old statement, right? That in chaos, there's lies opportunity, right? And we saw there were big winners during COVID, and there were big losers. Some went out of business, some kind of are still kind of struggling along, and then there were these, huge outlier winners. And I really believe that what it taught us, it was kind of a forced mindset shift, realizing that agility really becomes a very big competitive edge. And those who adapted and survived, or even those who thrived, I think that lesson applies equally as well today. I think there's a lot of people that are seeing opportunities. There's a lot of people that are seeing the risks now being exposed, but I think it's our speed, our agility, and our ability to make decisions fast. It was applicable in COVID, and it's equally as applicable today. So getting the right data to the finance leaders, I think, is equally as important now as it's ever been.
Yeah, that is so huge. Adam, direct cash flow seems to be having a moment right now, kind of, that speed to information and decision making. Why do you think it's such a game changer?
I was encouraged to poll to see how many are doing daily, like updating their cash balance daily. I think, the days of reporting what the cash position was, month end close 12 days ago are kind of behind us, right? I think executives are demanding these cash positions. The cash flow, I believe, is really like the truth serum for the business. That there's no hiding any of the facts that come through the cash flow. Of course, there's weaknesses, and of course, GAAP is applicable and a necessary function. But I think to move fast, cash flow is becoming more and more important, and I think the poll reflects that. Yeah.
That's great. And Nicolas, you've been head of finance. You're helping over 100,000 finance leaders today. What are you seeing in the field? What's coming up for you as you're having these conversations in this kind of world of change that we're all living in?
Yeah, so interestingly, a lot of people still are struggling to make their cash flow forecast. And I think everybody that I have seen, they are doing it on Excel. Which is really interesting, as we saw today, like everybody is saying that they are updating their cash daily. And I remember, it was 5-6 years ago in my previous job, the company I was working with just made a big acquisition. And the impact for us was that the company, instead of just being P&L focused, revenue focused, commercial focused, and EBIT focused, they started to ask a lot of questions about the cash. Why? Because as they bought the company, they noticed that they needed a lot of cash to buy this company, and the cash staying in the group was costing a bit more than before because bank was asking more money, there was more debt issues. So that was really interesting how, because the group and the management changed the big focus on not only P&L, but also a lot of cash, you had like a movement of 5,000 finance people changing, almost like within 3 months, they're reporting to focus a lot on cash. And you had to work to train people to explain how to do cash reporting, how to improve cash, also to explain how cash works, because a lot of these finance people were only focused on the P&L. And so that was interesting to first to get ownership, because the cash flow forecast was done once during the budget, and then after nobody looked at it. And now we changed it after to have it done every month, plus you had to comment on it. So you had to work a lot on this. And what I still see is a lot of companies where there is one person in the company who is doing the cash flow. And when it's not a topic, then it's okay, because this person is there, has time to do it, and then it's reported once somewhere, and then nobody looks at it. But in our case, when it became a priority, and we noticed that there was this accountant who knew everything in SAP, who knew exactly which account were impacted by cash flow and which not, When this person was sick, then everybody was frozen on the cash topic, and we were really blocked because we could not report on it. We could not explain it. So we had to change that. And on top, this person was going to retirement. So we had to own that and to make sure that we systematize it, that we use like proper system to build the cash every day. And that was a good wake-up call. And I guess like people watching today, like really, I encourage you to look at this, that you are not dependent on one person, but you systematize the way you report the cash, but the way also you forecast the cash. And the last part is that you understand also what happened in the cash, because a lot of time, a lot of FP&A people or even CFOs, they have to call their accountant because they don't understand what happened in the cash flow statement. And that's something that should not be the case. And for this, you need more transparency into your reports.
Absolutely. Yeah. Having that knowledge across the board with the FP&A team, I'm sure is so valuable. And yeah, not having it single threaded, I'm sure that creates a ton of risk in a team. Absolutely.
Sorry to jump in. We see this all the time, right? Where there's like the magical like spreadsheet whisperer who has macros and like all sorts of data pulling in and linking to other spreadsheets. And yeah, you're right. And then there's the cash, like, there are times where companies go through this, right? Where cash becomes a critical, like they're worried about running out of cash. The managers are worried about, and how much runway they might have. But we've also seen it where people are more forward looking too, and providing this data in a real time kind of after month end close when the banks have closed those transactions too. So but the magical spreadsheet whisperer is always a risk.
I desperately want to create t-shirts now that say magical spreadsheet whisperer. Okay, so let's talk strategy. Nicholas, what practical steps have you seen that finance teams can take to actually influence business decisions? We're pulling together our cash flow. We're looking at it on a daily basis. It's no longer single threaded in one person. So we're, in this kind of volatile environment right now. Teams are being asked to cut costs. They're being asked to collect more aggressively or more faster. How can they move forward to influence these decisions without actually getting buried in all of this financial data?
Yeah. So here, I'm going to show you a practical way to work on it. But for the story, in the same company when we had to work on cash flow, well, you have two solutions to improve cash flow. You can work on cash collection, you can increase your revenue, or you can also decrease the cost. And we had like double problems. We had the cash pressure, but we also had the competitivity pressure where we needed to improve our standard cost. And I remember at the time when the CEO came to me and asked me to work on a cost reduction plan, I really felt alone. Like nobody was there to help me and to say, yeah, this is the roadmap on how you can reduce cost. So I had to go like look online. I had to go and check best practices. And finally I came up with a plan, but it took me a lot of time and a lot of work. And today, let me show you what I will do if I will be again in this position and to find really like a solution just within 10 minutes. So, and this is to show to everybody the power of technology to come up with solutions to your problem. So here, I'm just sharing something I did recently with the new ChatGPT model, so O3, where you can use ChatGPT to help you. And here in my prompt, I'm just saying, okay, I am the CFO of a manufacturing company. I need to come up with a cost-saving plan, and I want a plan for me and my team. And now I want something practical, like low-hanging fruits, and to write it like the best cost-cutting consultant. And because I am in O3, it thinks about it and then comes up with a lot of different low-hanging fruits. And on top of that, I have some rating on what are the best solutions. I have also proposition of what I could expect for savings. So those are just fake numbers, but if I give more data, I will get here more help. And what I really like here, I ask for each solution to have a mini roadmap. Like this, I can straight away go into the actions and have a feeling of about how can I implement that? How can I go and talk with the operations to reduce the cost? So this is here an example on how fast you can go to actions thanks to technology. And this will bring you so much more as a sparring partner when you talk with production, when you talk with sales, when you talk with the other operators of the company to challenge them and to also give them inspirations on how to reduce cost. And you can do the same exercise about your working capital to optimize it. Maybe for inventory, there is so many ways to optimize those issues. But the thing is, if you never did it before, well, you have to start somewhere, and this is a good way to start really fast. So I recommend everybody to try that. I've seen a lot of my members in the AI Finance Club. They have solved a lot of issues like this, and they really say that it's like having a free consultant that never sleeps and who has like worked on the best project and can answer really fast like this.
That is very, very cool. Adam, how have you seen AI transform cash flow planning?
So first, I love that example.
Yeah.
And how it's like a research assistant, right? A built-in research assistant. And like we've talked about before, right? A lot of the things that it may have just produced may be relevant to your business, may not be relevant at all to your business. But as you get more dialed and you feed it more information, it'll obviously produce more, more specific, actionable like items for you. And of course, we never want to like just take it as like the doctrine for the company and deploy it, right? Like it's a research assistant, right? Sometimes they'll be right and wrong, but very, very helpful, extremely helpful. And of course, like that's one great way of using it. One of the things that we've done on like specifically on the direct cash flow statement, the bank is the source of truth when it comes to the cash flow. The problem with the bank is you need to enrich the data with the information that's in your general ledger in order to get the accurate picture. So the first thing that we did at Netgain was there's this open banking revolution that's coming and that's been coming and is arrived at different areas of the world at different times. We're kind of a laggard in the U.S., but I know Europe and Australia is leading the way. But there's other countries that are kind of forcing this adoption with legislation, so that we can get access to that, all that rich treasure trove of data that the bank has been holding. And so the first order was like really to connect. For us, it was to connect NetSuite to the banks so that we can get that data in. And then with that data, we're able to generate a real-time direct cash flow statement inside of NetSuite. And so instead of waiting, the indirect cash flow statement falls out of the financial statements at the end of the close. The direct statement, we don't need completed financials in order to produce the direct cash flow statement. So literally on day one, we can produce a direct cash statement, and even mid-month, if you've got your cash reconciled, you can pull an accurate direct, kind of mid-month direct cash flow statement. So at Netgain, we're fortunate we get to beta test this. So we've been beta testing this for several months. And it is really increased the speed that we get data. And of course, the visibility is incredible in this direct cash flow statement. So we're very excited to introduce this. Of course, it's embedded in NetSuite. So for those that are on NetSuite, this is a great option. For those that are not, of course, we're going to talk about some of these other tools out there too, and things. Yeah.
That's awesome. I bet that really helps folks just get answers before they're even, they can anticipate them before they're being asked for the data, which is great. Adam, could you show us an example of what that looks like?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So let me see. Sure. Okay, great. Here it is. So we've got the direct cash flow statement. Again, what's exciting about this is when the FASB and the International Accounting Standards Boards pushed this out not too long ago, the idea of the cash flow, there was a lot of excitement and around the direct cash flow statement and the visibility it provided. The indirect is kind of a reconciliation from the direct to the financial statements, but they've allowed the indirect. So everybody uses the indirect method, which is a little tougher to understand. And so this is where I wanted to show the direct cash flow statement here that we produce, system produced. So you can see you've got the same three categories. You've got operating, investing, and financing. And then, of course, shows the increase in cash in the change period over period. But from here, now we can drill in to the cash that was paid out and the cash that was received. So if I go into the customers, I can see a list of all the customers that have paid me in detail here. And this is a summarized view. I can switch this to a detailed view. And then if I drill into the detailed view, I can actually get access to the underlying transactions. So from here, I can drill into any transaction and see, any memos or any descriptions about what this might be for. We're on the customers, but on the vendors, it's super helpful to drill in and get the exact detail on what we're paying and who we're paying it to. And so from here, of course, we can change the view. We've got these different categories that we're showing that we've turned on here, and that's flexible with all these toggles that we've got here. And then, of course, we've added an AI layer on top of it because we've got all the bank data that's been enriched with the general ledger data. We're able to apply AI against this to look for trend analysis or to show, the largest inflows versus the outflows. So I just asked a basic question on, the largest inflows and outflows for the month. And it provides a summary of that right here. And then, of course, I can tweak the prompts and I can ask it other questions and drill in here as needed as well. So, we're very excited about this. This is very new for us, just released here in the last month and a half. So
that's very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Awesome. Okay, and Nicholas, I know that you mentioned that there is a new ChatGPT feature that could be helpful here.
Yes. So actually, something we discovered this week in the AI Friends Club, this week, Wednesday. So it's like 3-4 days old, and nobody talked about it online yet. So it's really hidden. And what is happening is, until now, ChatGPT could calculate with Python and create an Excel file with data inside, but the data were already calculated. So they were just like fixed data, hard-coded data. And you know how finance hate hard-coded. It needs to have nice formulas. It needs to be variable. And the second part of it is that if you wanted graphs from ChatGPT, you could get graph, but again, those graphs were images, so not variable, and those graphs were produced by Python. So for finance team, again, they don't really like that. They prefer like a graph which is in Excel, which uses Excel functions, which you could transport to PowerPoint and still dynamic. That was until Wednesday. And since Wednesday, we have a new functionality that only us discovered, like thanks to Christian Martinez. And I'm going to showcase this to you with the example is simple because I don't want to make the example too complicated, but you can imagine how much you can do with this. So imagine that I just received from the business, like I have a simple view with all of my cash flow, so the direct cash flow with sales revenue, other income, operating expenses, COGS, CapEx, loan repayment. So, or all of what we have here are direct impact of cash flows, okay? And I want to know what is the cash inflows, what are the cash outflows, and I want to create a good graph on this. So if I have this data and I will do the work, maybe I can do it in half an hour, 1 hour, because the data is already clean. Or I can go into ChatGPT with the O3 version, the reasoning model, and I'm allowed to put my data inside ChatGPT because I have a ChatGPT Teams account, which is under SOC 2 Type 2 compliance from a third-party auditor. And so I add my data, the same data that you just saw before. And I'm asking to create formulas and graph inside my file. And then the reasoning model is showing all of the steps that is happening and everything that this model is thinking about when building this file for me. And after 2.5 minutes, I spurred you like all of these steps. So after 2.5 minutes, here's what ChatGPT did for me. 1, formula were inserted in the file. 2, the charts were added. And 3, a small explanation about how to use this file. So now let's go inside the file. So I'll open the file and look now when I have like this total inflows, total outflows, net cash flow, cumulative balance, all of this was created. It didn't exist before. And when I click on one of the cells, I have formulas above. I don't have a calculated value hard-coded. I have ChatGPT that created the formulas for me. And it was smart enough to understand how to calculate outflows and inflows. And here on top, I got these 2 great graphs created, one showing the total inflows and outflows, and the other one showing the cumulative balance and the net cash flow. And you can see that those graphs are linked with the data above. So this is a simple example, but you could do something more complex. And this shows you where AI is going in terms of also working with our Excel files and how you can save a lot of time by letting AI do the prep work, and then you are the reviewer, not the other way around.
That is super cool. Very cool. I did not know that feature was available yet. So thank you for sharing that with us.
I'm curious, really like to know from the chat, like how many people knew that this existed?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen it. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's totally exclusive. Like the only people that I talked about that were people inside the AI Friends Club, and I had a conference last week where I showed that in the conference. This is cool. Totally new.
I think we all just found something new to play with today. Thank you for showing that. So I want to get down to practical guidance for our attendees. So, for those of us who are trying to figure out where do I start, what would you recommend that someone does tomorrow to be more prepared for their next cash flow fire drill? Adam, you want to go first?
The easy answer, if you're on NetSuite, Netcash can deliver very quick. So I would get it downloaded and then load the transactions in, and by month end you could have that data. For those that are not on NetSuite, one of the big things that we've been driving internally here as well as among our customer base is moving this idea of the big bang, like month end bank reconciliation. And moving it, if you're doing it at month end, do it weekly. If you're doing it weekly, doing it daily. And moving this to more of a continuous bank reconciliation. So, I mean, there's AI, and I'm sure Nicolas is going to talk about some of the cool AI things. But even if you're not ready for AI, I would still do everything you can to move that bank reconciliation process to a daily process. I think that's probably the easiest thing for companies that are not doing it. It looked like a little over half were not yet doing it that way. And doing that provides, it means you can very quickly, even if you're manually reporting this data up, you can very quickly pull that together for your executives or management team when or if they request it kind of mid-month. So I think that's one of the easiest tactical things you can do to improve your cash flow management.
Absolutely. Nicolas, what are your thoughts?
So first, building cash flow, like the actuals and the cash flow forecast, is actually not that hard, and a lot of people are afraid when they never did it. And that's really a step for everybody who are new with the topics or are not really comfortable. It's not that hard, especially if you look at direct cash flow, because direct cash flow just represents the business. So the first step will be, like Adam mentioned, don't wait until somebody's asking to understand your cash flow. So do it yourself. Start really big by the 80-20. Don't, because there's a problem in finance. We always try to reconcile everything. For cash flow, there is so many exceptions everywhere. Don't try to understand 100% of the cash flow. Start with understanding 80%. Because if your biggest client who is paying and represent 80% of the payment is not paying, you've already explained almost everything for the day or for the months where you have an issue. So start with understanding 80%. Then start also to understand the payment patterns. For this, what you can do is don't plan the cash from client only at the total level. Plan it by using the biggest clients, especially if they have different payment patterns. And then again, until you reach like 80% of payment with this biggest client. So you can do either client by client or bucket of clients. You could have like big corporate clients, maybe all of them are with 3 months payment terms. Maybe smaller client, they pay cash. So you might have like different group of clients, but group them until you get enough granularity. And then just like all of the rest, put it in like another group, and that should be enough. So having this, and then based on your sales forecast, because you might have like based on when is the sales, you have a payment terms, and you can link both. And I promise you, like a lot of people are really good understanding the sales. So if you understand the sales and everybody can follow the sales, you should be able to understand the cash in from the sales. Then from the cash outflow, they're really like in a lot of business, this is the most predictable way because you have salaries that are 70% of the cash out most of the time. And then you have all of the other costs that are really like your rent, your energy, like all of these payments are really similar month over month. What you might not be aware are either like project cash out. So if you have a project where you have a big procurement on this, then you need to work with the project team to ask them really like for input and to let you know when there is a big payment plan. And then the same for CapEx, you need to work with procurement and with your manufacturing team or with maybe like the people responsible of this CapEx to know when are the cash out plan, because those are where you're going to have the big movements, which are hard to plan. And so if you think about what I just said, this is only 10 lines. This should not be more than 10 lines. And once you have that done in a model that you can master in Excel, then try to see how you can automate that, either through tools or either through good mappings within your accounting system. And then where AI can be used are in two ways. First, if you're still building that all of this manually and you don't want to go out of Excel, you can use AI to script it. So explain AI what are all of the steps that you do in Excel and ask the script to build this. But second is on payment patterns. Actually, you can give your historical data of your clients and you can ask to use machine learning to understand the payment patterns. And this might seem scientific and really hard, but it's not. Like now with generative AI that can help you code, just a mini code to understand the payment patterns, you can really quickly have a better understanding and not just let your, I would say like your human brain to think that this client is paying in 90 days when actually the historical data says that they are paying every month on the third Monday of the month. And you might have never have seen that, but the data is there in front of your eyes. And then you say, oh, okay, it's not like 90 days. It's sometimes it's 60, sometimes it's 74, depending on when is the third Monday of the month. And that's knowing that you could build a much better forecast because you will know with 15 days, you are better accurate than just using 3 months. And so I encourage everybody to be more ambitious because now you have generative AI that can help you code all of this.
I like that. And getting into it's that 80-20. And so it's interesting, my perspective, I see both sides. I was the controller, like driving this data for the executive team. And now I'm the CEO. And from my perspective now, like speed is far more, and in order of magnitude, accuracy is far more important than to the penny. But as accountants, like we tend to lean into like I had a mentor of mine called it, chainsaw accounting versus scalpel accounting. And we tend to want to be scalpel like accountants, like to get everything exactly right. But speed is far more important than being exactly right. And I think the 80% captures the big bucket issues that we face anyway. So yeah.
Awesome. So we've talked a lot about speed at this point, and so I'd love to launch another poll just to get a better understanding of the preparedness to answer cash flow and cash flow questions from the leadership. So I'm going to push that live here in just a moment. All right, and so that should be going. All right, let's see. I want to make sure that we can see it on the screen. Okay, here we go as folks are answering. And as you're answering the poll too, if you have any questions for Adam or Nicolas, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A and we will get to them in just a moment.
It's interesting, this question. We just ran a revised cash flow last week and for the rest of the year. And initially it was going to take, I think it was going to take like a week and a half to run. And then I worked with our team on it and pushed back on some areas, and we massively simplified the exercise. And I think it took like overnight. They were done the next day. So sorry, this is very relevant.
I love seeing these responses too. Like nobody is abundantly confident. Like, yes, I am ready for these questions. Yeah. It's a little scary. Awesome. All right. Nicolas, anything to add before we finish up this poll?
Well, I really recognize myself in the yes, and I had to drop everything. But that's the thing, is when you have to drop everything, are you going to spend 3 days on it, or can you solve it in 10 minutes? And that's really something where you need to build your system. Maybe you don't have always the report ready, but at least you have your system in place that you can get to those through really quickly. And that's why either you have already the report not ready, but like ready to be made fast, meaning like if you update the data, you have all of this automatically done. Or if you are lucky and you have the great tool, like if everything is integrated with your accounting system, and if you have like what Adam just built, so then you can have something at the click of a button, which is, I think ultimately we need to go in this direction, because this is how management wants to drive business, not to look 2 weeks in the past, but look what is happening today.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. I think the speed for sure, confidence that the data is correct, and even just having the process to get there quickly so you're not starting from scratch when those questions come up. That's just so vital to everybody's sanity, I think, in times like this. All right, so a couple of questions from the chat, and want to thank you both for a great discussion so far. First question, what's a good AI prompt to analyze a basic cash flow table in ChatGPT? Nicolas, you're the pro here. Do you have any recommendations on this one?
Yeah, so I thought let's do maybe for this, because let's make it a bit more spontaneous. Usually I have videos prepared for this. I want to show you my thought process on how I would do that. So let's take maybe, even if the data is a bit too simple, but let's take, do you see the Excel file now?
Yes.
Okay, so let's take this as data. I just want to show you how I will use data with AI. And I will show you the way where I'm allowed to put data inside and the way where I'm not allowed. So first way is I can upload data because I have a corporate license or Teams license, or if you are in Copilot and you have a business license. So I think the data was here. So I will just upload the data and say, I'm a CFO. I want to analyze my cash flow. Based on the data, what type of analysis do you propose? And which KPIs can we calculate? And for each, propose some graphs. And then I will always ask, because I don't want to have the calculation yet, I will just say, show me the proposition in a tabular format before calculating. And what I do here is before, because a lot of people do the mistake to just say to AI, or analyze that. But imagine if you have a trainee next to you, you will not just tell them, here's a file and go ahead, analyze. You will give them context. You will explain them what you want. And you will maybe ask, what do you have as idea to analyze that? And ask the trainee to come back to you before starting the work. Because you don't want your trainee to spend 3 days coming back with the output. And then when the output is done, you are thinking that is not what you wanted to have. So here, that's why I already say, show me a proposition before calculating. Because I really want to know what is possible. I want first to have AI helping brainstorm on the type of analysis you should do and the KPIs and the graphs. So here, that's interesting to read all of the thinking. And you can see that there is a lot of work being done. And once all of the analysis is done, so let's see, I hope it will not take more than 1 or 2 minutes, because sometimes it can take 5 to 10 minutes. But you can see, okay, now it wants to propose the KPIs in the table. So it understood what I wanted to do. And that's, for everybody's asking what is happening in front of our eyes, this is the O3 model, which is the best. Okay, now thoughts for 1 minute 26 about that. Okay. And now that it thought about it, I have in a table all of the different KPIs, all of the different type of analysis I could run, and the type of calculation and the suggested graph. Then once it's done, I can maybe say, okay, now run the calculations, but show me the detailed calculation for all KPIs. And here is really, really, really important, because you don't want to have just the KPI calculated and given to you without knowing how AI did that. And the same way that an intern will work for you, you want to keep track of what has been done. You want to have the working files. So here is really important always to say, show me the detail of calculation. And so this is what is going to happen. I think it will take like 2 minutes again to calculate everything. So while it's going to do that, let me show you how you deal when you cannot upload your data. And we are going to, again, use ChatGPT O3. But this time, instead of copy and paste the data, what I can do is I can just copy all of the fields that I have, or copy the headers. But here, what is more important is the lines. And I can just say, I have an Excel file with the following information from January to December 2025. And so I paste all of the information. And then I will just ask the same thing than before. So my prompt was, I am the CFO. So I am a CFO. I want to analyze my cash flow based on data. What type of analysis? But because I explain how my file looks like, the AI doesn't need to know exactly which are the number behind. It wants to know what are your headers and what are your fields. And so when I give this, it will be able to work on that and still propose me a lot of KPIs and how to calculate them. And so we'll see later what we'll get as output. But for now, here, we have all of this calculated. And okay, so now for each of them, I have, for each of these metrics, I have the KPIs. And so I can export them in the table. And here I have also the value. And the detailed calculation, that's something where a lot of people don't know where is the calculation. It's actually everything is there. So that's where you need to review to understand if the work was done correctly. And if still you are not really clear, you can ask more details. You can say, how did you calculate? Because you see, like here, you see how it's calculated. So that's your job after to run over that to understand if the calculation is done correctly. Or now that we have the formulas, you can say, can you generate the output with the formulas directly in the file? And that would be a good way to audit to see if the work is done correctly. And in the meanwhile, you could see that the other discussion, when I didn't give any information, I still got a lot of value by getting all of these different KPIs plus the formula on how to calculate it, plus the recommended graph. And after, if I ask how to do that in Excel, it will guide me. And so I can do it myself in Excel. And you see, even now, like either I can upload or we can run it ourselves. I can ask, show me the exact calculations to do in Excel in my file, knowing the fact that it starts in A1. And then it will give you the formulas based on your file. And I didn't give any data, but I still can work on that. So, and this will take time, and we'll get, for the other one, a graph and the table and the file calculated on the other one, because we were able to upload the data. So here you got like a live mini course on how you can, in a few minutes, get a lot of output without giving your data or with giving your data. What is really important is I will, rather than ask all of the KPIs to be calculated at the same time, I will rather work one KPI at a time to have more clarity on how it's computed, because you want to be able to audit the work and not just trust the work. Because even if it's calculated here with Python, if you don't understand how it's calculated, you cannot audit it. So that's why make sure you don't ask too much at one time. Go step like you will do with a training.
I love that. I love asking it to like explain the thought process along the way, because I think so many of us are just concerned, like, will the output be a hallucination? Will it have understood my question correctly? And having that explanation along the way really helps to make sure that you're aligned on it's performing the task that you're asking for.
One of the things I love that you did is asking it what to ask, almost, right? Like that's where, like, I'm supposed to analyze the cash flow. Here's what I need analyzed, right? But like, what else am I missing? Like, what should I be analyzing that I'm overlooking here, right? And that's where I've tended to get really, really good feedback.
Yeah. And let me show you, like, in 2 seconds actually, because it's done. This work is done, so I can share again. So here I got the file with all of these new, like this is totally new, like all of these KPIs. You can see everything is calculated in the top. I have also average cash burn rate, cash runway by month. And then for the other one, where I didn't give my data, it still gives me the exact formula I can use for each of these KPIs. So this is also super actionable. And you just after need to go on and just copy the formula and then paste it in your file.
Wow.
And I didn't give my data.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, it looks like we do have another question and we have time to take it. So what if your systems don't talk to each other? Can you still get to daily cash flow visibility?
So I could start, Nicolas, but I would say, like, this is a common problem everywhere. The first place I would start is the bank. Like, the bank data is your source of truth. I know a lot of you may have like many, multiple bank accounts, but even if you're not fully integrated between the bank and your ERP or your ERP and your CRM, you can always export, these transactions, get them categorized, and start building from there. Of course, it's great when you do have a tool like Netcash, like that can automate these pieces. But if you're not integrated, like I would start with a bank.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
I think on this, what you need to have is then like a backend process where I see that all the time where people manually they map everything. And right now, I will really encourage everybody, just go inside any of your LLM chatbot and explain what you are doing manually and ask what are the options to automate that. And either you will get the proposition of one of the best tools to use, which is anyway already doing that. So you don't even need to build it. Or maybe functionalities of your ERP that you didn't know was available. Or it will start showing you like tactical solutions between like combining few tools. And then you will go until getting like maybe some coding in Excel, some coding in Python, but you don't have to figure out yourself how to do that. It will tell you how to do it. And then you just choose one of these options and you ask, okay, how can I implement it? And then you get, again, like a roadmap with clear details. And for the story, last Wednesday, I was giving a workshop to the team of Ferrero, like the headquarters. Ferrero, they do all of the chocolate, like Nutella and all of the Kinder. And in just 1 hour, I gave them a framework, and they arrived with a problem that they identified. And 1 hour after, for all of the problems, each team had a solution with a clear roadmap on how to implement it. And just because they use AI in the right way with the right prompt and the right thinking process, they went from problem to solution. They didn't implement it yet, but they had a plan to implement it. And they even have like at the end a pitch to explain other teams how to implement it. So that's how you can go in 1 hour from problem to solution.
That's very cool. Awesome. Okay, let me pull up just our closing slide here. I will get there, potentially. There we go. Okay, so I want to thank both of you so much for joining us today. Such a great discussion. Thank you, everyone who joined us as an attendee today. If you are curious about how Netgain can give you faster, clearer cash insights, or if you want more information on the AI prompt templates that Nicolas mentioned, please check your inbox after this session. Once the recording is ready, we'll send a follow-up email so that you can get more resources to learn more about this topic. We will also be hosting a demo of Netgain's direct cash flow functionality in Netcash on June 6th. So if you'd like a deeper dive, we'll include the registration link in the follow-up email. If you'd like more information on what Nicolas and AI Finance Club are doing, please go look for their YouTube channel at AI Finance Club. Nicolas has all kinds of great content and demos there. And we hope to see you all there. Until next time, we hope you go turn your cash flow visibility into strategic advantage. And we hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Excellent. Thank you.